This is John Dollar of Prayer Builders in Winona, Minnesota. Right now we're looking at we're in First Thessalonians chapter 2. We're going through verse by verse. And yesterday we looked at verse 11. Let's go ahead and read this. Paul's just recounting. He's stirring up the memory in these people. He's making them, and see, we've got to do that. I mean, one thing is, probably the last 8 to 10 verses, Paul was doing nothing but stirring up good memories. I mean, right now, if I start going through something that's rough, if I start having a bad ordeal, you're going to end up seeing what's happening here. Because right now, when he wrote this letter, he sent Timothy to carry it. And the reason was he knew the devil was sucker punching their faith because of a lot of it was to do with how Paul was getting persecuted. We'll end up seeing that. But when you go through this, Paul is bringing up the reminders. Paul is just reminding, and you know what? When I get in a tough place in my life, I will just go back to all the times that God put me over. And I will literally look at those times. And then if I notice that my wife is thinking about it, if I notice that it's just like if any of it's getting off on her, I will go down that, and I don't care. I don't care if we're facing something physical in our body, if we're facing something financial, if we're facing something whatever. And I will start saying, and I will start naming off stuff and reminding. And that's what Paul's doing here. He says, you know how we exhorted you and comforted you. And then he says, and we charged every one of you as a father does his own children. And then he doesn't just stop there. He says what he was charging them about and giving them a charge about. And literally that charge means to bear record of, to bear record of your behaviors. This is almost like, I mean, this is like Paul. It's just like I mean, I remember my kids. I mean, I used to help my boy a lot when he was, I mean, I'd try to be an encouragement to him. He went through some tough things sometimes in sports when he was growing up, where they'd lose games or something didn't go right. And man, I mean, especially if it was a close game or if just something, just a heartbreaking loss or things like that. I was constantly trying to watch and go in and encourage him the right way of doing things to get over, to be ready for the next game. Because like I remember one thing about quarterbacks, if a quarterback gets sacked, like in the NFL, especially if they're younger, when I'm watching that stuff, I'll tell Anita, I'll say, boy, I don't know how he's going to handle this. You're going to have to watch here to see how he starts handling this, because sometimes when something bad happens, the wheels can just fall off the cart in these guys' heads. They let it get the best of them. We can't be doing that. We got to stay focused. I mean, Tom Brady had a short memory. And if his memory wasn't short, he would get angry. And if he got angry, you were probably in trouble if he was passing against you. Because usually when he would like start getting mad and you'd see him throw his helmet, then he'd come back and he would like run 3 straight touchdowns or something. And I was never, it's not that I was a real big Tom Brady fan. I'm just using it as an example. But we've got to have real short memories to mistakes. But what he says here, he says that he says, remember this. He says, every one of you I charged as a father does his own children. What? That you would walk worthy of God who calls you into his kingdom and glory. He says we need to be walking worthy of what he provided. I mean, Jesus provided this call. Jesus provided this ability for us to do the right things. And you know what? If you're a leader, we've got to be reminding people of this, Because Jesus actually gave us ability to walk in the Spirit, not fulfill the lust of the flesh, and for us to walk worthy of the call. God has called you. And there's a verse, I'm going to just close with this. There's a verse back in over in Timothy, in 2 Timothy chapter 2, and at verse 21. We had actually a few days ago been over in this same chapter looking at something else. But in verse 21, it says, therefore, Paul was talking about, therefore, if anyone cleans himself from these things, he will be a vessel of honor, sanctified and fit for the master's use. And basically prepared for every good work. That's what he says. We need to be living a life where we're making the right decisions. And we need people encouraging us. I mean, we need people in our lives. We need people that God has ordained to be leaders in our lives that can see things we're not seeing and literally encourage us and just keep us on track. The devil likes to just isolate us and beat us up in our own thought world. And that's not what he wants here. So anyway, I'm not going to keep going on with this verse. It's easy for me to. And I just want to encourage you. I mean, as we're going on here, if you end up even having, I don't care, as we're going through these verse by verses, if you end up having any questions, comments about this, I'd be interested in hearing them. Write, give us comments, give us questions. And I want you to never forget this. Jesus is coming back.